Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to another meta builds video. Today I'll show you 3 builds that are among the most played on the 4th week of the Trial of the Ancestors League. If you decide to make any of those, you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. Let's start with this build that just assumed the first position in the most played builds of this league, the Tornado Shot Deadeye with the Ranger class. Tornado Shot is so strong that it doesn't even need a returning projectile support gem. This way you can keep your Mirage Archer for a smoother clear speed. Just as I did with the Lightning Arrow build, the complete guide of this one will also count with 2 versions of the build, a budget and a complete one. Each has its own PoE and passive tree, so you can start this build even on a low budget and upgrade it later. To list the pros of this build, I have to start talking about the clear speed and the boss damage. With Tornado Shot, you're going to clear maps in less than a minute and kill bosses in less than a second. This build is also not complicated to put together, I totally recommend it for everyone. Now to list the cons, I would say that this build is not very tanky. Even though you have some defensive layers, it's important to take advantage of your ranged attacks and stay far from danger. If you don't mind your position, you might die. About the budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. But if you go for the complete version, you need to invest at least 4 more divines. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. On the budget version, you only need one mandatory unique item for this build, the Yoke of Suffering Amulet that causes all of your elemental damage to shock. This way our enemies take a lot more damage. On the complete version, on the other hand, besides the Yoke of Suffering, you also need the Lionized Fall and the Thread of Hope unique jewels. They are expensive but grant a huge boost to your damage. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. You fire many projectiles with high attack speed, and those projectiles explode in more projectiles, chain on enemies, bounce off walls, and go everywhere. You're going to kill enemies that you never even had a chance to see. The boss damage is also amazing and deserves 10 out of 10. Tornado Shot is super strong, and with the help of your ballistas, you're going to kill bosses so fast that you won't even notice them. For the survivability, I'll give this build 8 out of 10. Even though you have armor, evasion, spell suppression, and you can kill enemies from a good distance, this build isn't very tanky. If you don't mind your position, you might die. Next, let's take a look at this amazing minion build that is being used by over 5% of high level players. I'm talking about the Raging Spirit's Guardian with the Templar class. As you know, minion builds are among the best builds out there, and this one in my opinion has the best cost benefit. It's a very simple and safe build for you to complete all content without much investment or effort. Awesome for beginners. To list the pros of this build, I would start with how accessible it is. It is super cheap, simple, easy to play, and doesn't need any mandatory unique item. This build is for everyone. It also counts with a great boss damage and survivability. Above all, it has 3 damage auras totally for free and a minion that takes 20% of the damage for you. Now to list the cons, I'll start saying that Raging Spirits have a short duration and you need to keep resummoning them while clearing maps, which might reduce your speed a little. Other than that, this build also doesn't have access to evasion or reach. As for budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 60 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 100 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, or you can totally do it with less. For clear speed, this build gets 8 out of 10. This is because you have to keep resummoning your Raging Spirits, but as you can see, even though this clear speed isn't super fast, it's perfectly fine for you to play and have a good time. The boss damage is great, it's a 9 out of 10. If you apply all the buffs and maintain 20 spirit summon, you will easily reach over 15 million DPS, more than enough to decimate all endgame bosses in seconds. For the survivability, I'll give it 10 out of 10. This is because we're talking about a minion build where you just need to summon them and wait behind while they destroy and tank everything for you. You just need to mind your position. But with this build, even if they manage to reach you, you still have high armor and block chance, resulting in an effective HP of over 140,000. Finally, we have this incredibly fast and cool build that is also very popular this league. the Flicker Strike Slayer with the Duelist class. This build uses Terminus S to sustain the frenzy charges needed for you to keep flickering. It's a great and simple Flicker Strike build for beginners. To list the pros of this build, I would have to start with its clear speed. Look at that, this is just insanely fast. It also counts with an awesome boss damage and instant life leech. And of course, Flicker builds are just super cool. Now, to list the cons, I would start with the fact that you're always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Another issue is that you have little control over your character, making it hard on bosses where you need to mind your position or attack the right enemy. As for budget, you can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. You need only one mandatory unique item for this build, the Terminus S sword that keeps your frenzy charges up even while flickering. For clear speed, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I don't even need to say anything, just take a look at the gameplay and you have to agree with me. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. This build can easily deal many millions of damage per second, it's just great to kill big bosses like that. Now for the survivability, I'd only give it 8 out of 10. Even though this build still has almost 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion and spell suppression, I had to take 2 points out for the same reason as I did with the Cyclone Slayer. Since you're always very close to enemies, you're always in a vulnerable position. And that's it for today, guys. Are you trying any of those meta builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!